glad to see so many of you miners and families here today because September 1913 is going to make history. I guarantee you that. You're here at the District Convention of the United Mine Workers, and it will be up to you to make a decision about going on strike. You had a strike in 1903, remember? 1910, they weren't very successful. But if you make up your mind to fight, you're going to win this time because you're fighting slavery. Slavery down in the coal mines with choking dark dust. You're working in the water, kneeling or lying down to chip away at the coal. You know, last year there were 151 typhoid deaths here in southern Colorado. That tells you something about the living conditions too, doesn't it? Not just the conditions down in the mine. You had low coal seams, so you were bent over, working in the coal mines, ruining your backs. You weren't paid to put up the timbers to support their ceilings, and so they caved in on you, on your head, and on your back, and on your legs. One county, 500 deaths underground. Other counties, even more. That's your future. Unsafe working conditions. If you don't fight for your rights, you have to use the company store. It's the company that hires the teachers, provides the church, completely controls your lives in the company-owned houses. What happens when your coal miner in your family is killed in the mine? You have to move out of the company-owned house right away. Where are you going to go? And so that's when you decide to put in your 10-year-old boy or your 12-year-old boy to go work in the mines so you can stay in your house and you get their pittance of money, $2 a week for the young boys. They're down there in the dark, sitting, waiting to open the curtains so the coal cars can come out. They need those leather curtains to control the airflow, such as it is. And while they're sitting in the dark, they're there for 20 minutes until the next coal car comes. They've dropped out of school for this. Your children don't have a chance in life. You're a man, and you should fight for your rights in spite of what the coal officials tell you. One reporter asked a company official, "Why do you treat the mules better than the men?" And the quick answer was, the mules are of more value to the company than men. They can always go to Ellis Island and recruit others. They can go down to Mexico and bring men up from there to work in the mines, because these mines, dozens and dozens of mines, take thousands of workers, and there are not enough men living around here. And they bring their families with them to these conditions because they've been promised good pay, good work. And these farmers from foreign countries don't much appreciate working underground. Oh, I see one of you company men out there listening to me. You with your high starched collar to keep your befuddled brains from oozing out of your mouth. Well, listen to me and take the word back to your board of directors back east. Those people don't care what's going on out here. But we care, desperately. I asked a man one time, "Why are you in prison?" And he said, "For stealing some shoes." Well, I said, "You better learn to steal the railroad, and then you become a U.S. Senator." That's what the people back east do. You may wonder how I got into this business of working for the working man. Well, I'm Irish. I've got an Irish temper. My family came to Canada and then the United States. My grandfather was hung for being a rebel. My father got into trouble. I met my husband, George Harris, and we were married. He was a union man. We lived in Memphis, Tennessee. We had 4 children. And then the yellow fever epidemic of 1867, shortly after the Civil War, hit Memphis. And my husband died. And then my first child died. And my second child, my third one, and in the same week, my last dear little one died. I didn't want to stay there anymore. I moved to Chicago and opened a dressmaking business. When I was in Tennessee and my children were sick, I saw that the rich had enough money to get good medicines, healthy food, get the doctor to come to the house, not the working man. In Chicago, in my dressmaking business, I went into the mansions of Chicago to do their sewing. I saw their show-off wealth. And then I'd walk out the door, and on the street would be a desperate mother in a working family, but couldn't afford to feed her family. And that's when I started working on behalf of the working man. Now, I'm tired of mourning the deaths of the coal miners in the mines. Their names are on the back pages in the newspaper. But to you, they're your fathers, your brothers, your sons. So don't put up with it. Fight. Let's do something about it. You know, the public is the laziest damn bunch you ever saw. You gotta wake them up. And the only way you're gonna wake them up is to strike and strike and strike till every last one of you is in your grave. Now, it's going to be hard on your families and your children. Here in southern Colorado, there are more than 9,000 children who will be affected if you go on strike. 9,000 children. And you'll be evicted from your homes. And the weather's great today, but you know what's coming as far as the weather's concerned. And you'll be living in tents through the snow and rain and the wind and heavy snow that will collapse the roofs of the tents. They call me the most dangerous woman in America. Me, 80 years old. But they call me dangerous because I can get you to work together and form a union and fight for your rights. Now I know you talk in 27 different languages, and I know it's hard to come together as a union, but we have a plan for that, so that you can work together, and that's the important thing. I want you to use your hands less and your heads more. I want you to read and educate yourself so you know what to do. I recently was in West Virginia organizing the coal miners there. And when I was talking to the coal miners, I was told, you can't talk. I said, for God's sake, have you ever seen a woman who couldn't talk? Of course I can talk. And they asked me, who gave you the right? And I said, God Almighty gave me the right. And Patrick Henry, and George Washington, and Jefferson, and Adams. I have the right to speak, just as I do here today to you. If you're too cowardly to vote to go on strike, there are enough women in this country to beat the hell out of you. And I'm going to remind you to pray for the dead, but fight like hell for the living.